Welcome to Bee's Travelogue, episode 27. My trip to Gwangju was on March 9th and 10th. Since I'd seen some cherry blossoms, I was expecting cherry blossoms to open in Namak anytime. So I headed out into the neighborhood to look for blossoms. My first excursion was south from my building to the hill that I could see from my window, the one that I had climbed in November. However, to my great disappointment, there were no blossoms yet whatsoever. While I had a beautiful view and enjoyed the climb, there was no change in the vegetation. Everything pretty much looked as it had during the winter. However, on my way home through the park, I was happy to see that someone had planted peonies. Whenever it was sunny out and the sky was blue, I wanted to go exploring, and usually I wanted to see something new. So the next time I started walking left around Oryongsan mountain and then headed north up the road toward the intersection I had seen from the top. This sign of the mountain with many trails made me realize that there were many entrance points and that there was much more to explore. When I reached the intersection, I didn't really feel like walking back. I thought that would be sort of boring and thought that maybe I could just walk around the entire mountain and head back. On the way, I saw these beautiful camellia blossoms, and some of the fields were starting to turn green. The main road at the intersection was a highway for cars, so I turned away from that and down a more local road into a nearby village, and then tried to find local roads along the highway around the mountain. I saw this Porsche parked at a weird spot on the intersection and was wondering who had parked it there and why and when. I then saw these harabujis from Jeju Island in the field and these concrete tubes piled high. By the time I reached the railway going north to Gwangju, I had only gone around the mountain about halfway and regretted by this time not having turned back at the intersection. I was looking at the map to see if there were any bus routes or if I could call a taxi. But then I saw these way markers and remembered the map I had seen. That gave me an idea that instead of walking around the mountain, I could take a shortcut over the mountain. This area had some interesting views and definite signs of spring, more so than south of the mountain in Namak. I had to cross the major highway to get directly next to the mountain and found an underpass that led me to the other side. I had a little bit of trouble finding the entrance to the path that was leading across the mountain, but I eventually found it. The hiking trails in Korea were not clearly marked like most of the trails were in Connecticut. I came across another cemetery and pretty much noticed how gray and brown the grasses still were everywhere. But the view across toward the east was really beautiful, and I really wanted to climb this one mountain that was sticking out of the surrounding countryside. The climb up was pretty steep, but very quick. I think I was up there in like 15 minutes. And then as I was coming over the hill and could look down into the valley, I could see Namak and the buildings I was familiar with right there in front of me. Feeling a bit more relaxed, I was paying attention to, again, signs of spring, this ladybug and the mosses here. Everything was starting to look more cheerful. There were benches like this everywhere in the forest, and I thought my mom would really like to come here and take a rest. While there were no signs of cherry blossoms yet, there was one very good thing that happened from this excursion. When I left the park to go back home and had just crossed the street, a woman came toward me. She was not Korean and asked me if I was living around there, and when I was asking her where she was from, she said she was German. So suddenly we started to talk in German and talked for over an hour, and from that point forward, I had a German friend in Namak. These 3 pictures are from Mokpo, where I was meeting people from the international Facebook group. The following week, I headed back to the lake and the government building. I kept worrying that I might miss the cherry blossoms, so I kept checking every few days to see how far they had progressed. As you can see, the buildings looked beautiful, the sky was blue, but the trees had not changed much. I found this very vocal rooster and some hens, and big fish in the lake, but still no cherry blossoms. I also found that a lot of the trees were being uprooted, and I didn't know what was happening. I did find this magnolia tree, and I was very happy that I could take some pictures of blossoms. There was this amphitheater and more camellia blossoms. But overall, the grass was still not very green, the trees didn't have many leaves, and everything was still more bleak rather than spring-like. I found these 2 geese that were very much in love and very sweet. Then I found this platform from where I had a good view into the water and discovered huge fish that were probably almost a yard long each. I was really impressed by the size and the color of the fish. Then I walked back toward the building and saw several birds and turtles along the way. The geese got spooked and started flying, and the turtles were pretty much hopping off into the water whenever I tried to take a picture. Since before my trip to Busan, I had started meeting a young Korean man once a week at a cafe not far from my apartment. He wanted to learn English, and I wanted to learn some more Korean. He recommended that I go to the Gochang Cherry Festival at the end of the month. I also had to attend a conference for teachers from my school. We attended it in the morning, and then afterwards our boss took us to this beautiful buffet lunch. I hope you enjoyed these hikes around Namak and join me for my next excursion to the Gochang Cherry Festival. Thank you for watching.